The West is home to some incredible bug hatches, but few can match the size and intensity of the great salmonfly hatch. These massive aquatic insects have a wild life cycle, and when they start climbing on the banks and fluttering clumsily over the water, trout lose all sense of caution. Today we're diving into the magic of this hatch and what it means for anglers fishing one of the most diverse rivers in this region. By the end, you'll have a few extra tips and tricks up your sleeve for when you're casting to a not-so-graceful Terra Narcissus on the water this year. Hey, I'm Dave, host of this traveled podcast. I've been fly fishing since I was a little kid, grew up around a little fly shop, and have created one of the largest fly fishing podcasts in this country. I've also interviewed more of the greatest fly anglers and guides than just about anyone out there. Justin Adams, South Fork guide and master behind the oars, is going to take us into his world of the Snake River. We're going to talk about the Middle Fork of the Salmon. We're going to get into even the Grand Canyon today. You'll find out how he puts a 90-degree bend in the leader and how this helps him fish nymphs more effectively. You're going to find out what the number one thing is he says to his clients every day and why fish have scuffed noses from the rocks on the South Fork and why and how this can help you find more fish. Plus, you're going to hear about the Rain Bros and who they are and why Jason Bateman, Michael Keaton, and other celebs are heading to Justin's lodge to fish this challenge. We get into the Rain Bros. This episode of Traveled is presented by Yellowstone Teton territory, where you can explore great hunting, fishing, ski joring, hot springs, and much more. Lots of good stuff. And Justin talks about today that just the relaxing is something he enjoys in the wintertime. So here we go. Justin Adams from the South Fork Lodge. How you doing, Justin?
Great. Thank you. How you doing?
Good. Yeah. I'm excited about today's podcast because we're going to jump into the South Fork, which I've fished once, and it's a pretty cool river. We're going to also talk about some of the stuff you're doing traveling around the country, and I think it's interesting. I had Oliver. We'll put a link in the show notes on the podcast a while back. I guess Oliver and Jimmy's lodge, right? Jimmy Kimmel. So this is going to be cool. But yeah, maybe take us back. Let's just go back to start real quick before we get into this, before we get into your guiding and all that. What's your first memory of fly fishing and how'd you get into it?
Oh gosh. Probably some of the younger memories, when I was younger, I fished a bunch on the North Fork of the Big Lost River, with my grandpa. They had a cabin up there, really neat, little brook trout stream, a lot of little rainbows and stuff. And so I had a lot of cousins and stuff. So we used to go out and spin fish a lot when we were, young, and then fight over grandpa's waders and fly rods once we got old enough to know better. And but yeah, I had a ton of cousins, so my grandma would kick us out of the cabin and say, get your asses out there and go fishing. And so we didn't drive her nuts. But that's a lot of the younger, a lot of walk and wade fishing when I was a younger lad out there, and didn't really have a drift boat back then, just a lot of walk and wade. And we float tubed a lot. I had float tubes that we'd kick around and stuff like that. But my grandpa showed me a lot on the fly fishing end.
Yeah, he did. Okay, and that was is that the Lost? Now, where is that exactly?
Kind of central Idaho, near Sun Valley.
Oh, okay, Sun Valley. Yeah, I was gonna say. Okay, so not right in like the Wood River, Big Wood, and
Wood River runs through Sun Valley. This would be north of that.
Okay.
Yeah, cool area up there. The Pioneer Mountain Range. Their cabin overlooked the Devil's Bedstead. It was called really cool mountain range that we've actually skied since. So it's kind of cool.
Oh wow, right on. Is that where your cabin is? That near where you grew up?
Yeah, just the grandparents' cabin. I'm originally from Pocatello, but we spent a lot of time up there at Grandpa's cabin.
Yeah, you did. That is really cool. And is the cabin still out there? Did Grandpa pass it on?
Yeah, both grandparents have passed away, but they sold the cabin. It's still there. Unfortunately, it didn't stay in the family.
Oh, it didn't. There you go. Yeah, those are always the tough when you look back on it, especially as you get into it, fly fishing. And you're like, oh man.
We still sit in there and jump the fence and still go fishing in there still though.
Oh, can you?
So,
Yeah, you can still get in there.
yeah, we might piss some people off, but we still know the honey holes.
Oh, right. Right. Is that with Idaho? Is that on the river laws? Is there access? How does that work? Is there public access up to the high water mark?
Yeah, a lot of it, and a lot of those people, if you just ask, they'll
Yeah.
let you go through there.
They're fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of Idaho is the high water mark though.
It is high water. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. And so you got that grandpa early days, and then is the fly fishing? Have you been the guiding with South Fork and everything doing that a while?
Yeah, I worked for the Forest Service up here for about 10 years, and I guided part-time, when people got sick or were kind of getting burned out. So I guided part-time for a long time and then worked for the Forest Service and did a lot of river patrol with the forest. So I was on the river a lot, but I think I started hitting it hard around 2018,
Uh-huh.
um, doing over 100 days a season, from about 2018 until now. It was hard to find housing up here, so I had free housing with the Forest Service, so I used that to kind of root down in Swan Valley, and then got a boat, started rowing a lot more, and I borrowed everybody's boat I could get my hands on before
Yeah.
I started guiding, so I could learn the river and stuff. But I had fished the South Fork for from being from Pocatello, it was only an hour and a half from my house, so fished it a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah. The South Fork is kind of the biggest, most known, best fishing. Is that kind of what the South Fork's about out there?
yeah, yeah, it's a really great fishery. A lot of fish per mile. It can take quite a bit of pressure. It gets a lot of guide days, but it fishes pretty good. So we're fortunate to have that.
And are those, is this the mostly cutthroat?
Yeah, cutties, brown trout, and rainbows, and then we have the hybrids, the cutbows.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. And what's your boat you're running now?
I do a 16-foot low pro clacker craft.
Yeah, low pro. Okay.
Most of the guys are running clackers or hides up here. You're starting to see some more of those boulder boats
Oh
and
yeah.
some gifts and stuff. But for the most part, a lot of these guys are running clackers.
Yeah, clackas. Okay. Perfect. And so when does your, this time of year it's pretty cold out there right now?
Yeah, it's -12.
Yeah, so it's cold, right? So you're not doing, unless you're into ice fishing, is that, are you pretty much in the wintertime just hitting your skiing and the winter sports and stuff?
Yeah. In fact, those guys, they wanted me to go snowmobiling yesterday, and I told them no, it was too cold.
Yeah.
So, it's just rough on your face and your hands and stuff when you're out there. But yeah, there's not much else to do. I don't fish a whole bunch. We'll go ice fishing, like on Ryrie Reservoir, and poke around on the river a little bit. Just a lot of the accesses on the river, you have to have ropes and stuff to get in and out of the ramps right now.
Oh, right.
And it's super cold, so we'll go snowmobiling and ski around here in the Snake River Range. There's a ton of backcountry skiing, so it's not far from the house. So we'll load up the snowmobiles and use the snowmobiles to get close, and then we hike up and ski down. So
Gotcha.
exercise too.
Yeah. So that's, so you got the winter time. When does the winter end, or when does the fishing start picking up for you as far as like either personal or the guiding?
I usually start May 1 through end October.
Yeah.
We're usually, it depends. A lot of people, we don't get a ton of bookings in May. It's getting better. I think I have right now in the books probably a dozen days in May as of now. But yeah, it'll fill up quick, and then we'll go, mid-October or to the end of October, depending on if clients want to come.
Gotcha. Yeah. And usually October is a pretty, it can be pretty decent weather, a good time to go out there.
Yeah, October is really good actually.
Yeah.
It's usually low water, so the river's low, and um, it's easy to find for the bigger fish. And then the browns are starting to spawn in the fall too, so those guys are making beds and stuff. So we usually leave those guys alone. And once you start seeing their beds, let them do their thing. Then there's obviously a ton of whitefish that are starting to spawn at that time as well. A lot of the winter fishing, there's a ton. You'll catch a lot of whitefish, so,
Yeah.
but it's still fun catching fish. So.
Sure. I saw you mentioned on email before we got going some other trips like Mexico. Are you traveling also around after the off season?
Yeah, right when we got done, in fact, we had the employee party at the lodge, and then they picked me up. I actually stayed at the lodge, and they picked me up the next day, and we went to Mexico. We go down to Kay's Lodge in Buta Allen, and I've been down there twice, but we do 10 days down there. Jose and Lily run that lodge, and a couple of the other guides hosted some trips from our lodge that I kind of piggybacked with them. This trip, it was raining a lot, tough weather conditions, but I ended up getting a really nice permit, about 25-pound permit, one
Oh
of the
wow.
biggest permit I've ever caught. So it was pretty cool.
No kidding.
So yeah, we want to do anything but trout fish when we get done. So it's nice to go to the saltwater and do a little dip fishing, because honestly, you get sick of chasing trout around all summer.
Yeah.
So
Right, because you're doing it pretty much. Are you doing it every day, or what's your summer look like?
pretty much I'll grind it out, do as many days. I'll probably do. I usually do like 10 days, take a couple off, 10 days, take a couple off. It just depends, but usually I'll crank out, as many as my back will let me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And where was the was that a lodge you guys went down to in Mexico?
Yeah, yeah. It's called Kay's Lodge.
Oh, Kay's
Uh,
Lodge. Okay.
AYS, yeah. I'd recommend people go and check it out. It's a really nice fishery too. They're famous for permit, tarpon, cuda, bonefish, obviously. It's cool for me to go down there and get guided too. It helps me, be a better guide when I get back here. All the guides there are really good. Yeah, it's a blast. Have a good time, good food, all that good stuff. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is really cool. So you got that going, and then yeah, you're pretty much in the season when May starts. Well, whenever you start getting trips, you're going. What is it? What do you think is the most popular time, or is it pretty much busy? June, July, August, all summer out there.
Most of the people are shooting for that, 4th of July, the month of July, or when the salmon flies get here.
Yeah, the month of July. Yep.
Yeah, and it varies each year, but usually 4th of July they've hatched, and that a lot of the people freak out about the salmon flies,
Yeah.
and it's good. That's one of the biggest hatches we have, and there's usually multiple hatches. Um, and there's I mean these bugs are thick. You hit them with on your car or on the highway
Right.
and
Right.
stuff.
These are the giant salmon flies.
Yep.
Yeah. Is it like kind of it's a short window, or what's the window look like?
Well, we'll start nymphing them, 'cause there's a ton of nymphs, and you'll start seeing them, and then they're all over in the bushes when they hatch, obviously. And once we start seeing them, or a lot of times they'll start trying to eat your bobber, fishing with strike indicators and that. And once they start, hitting that bobber, or we just start putting on big bugs just because we know they'll eat it.
Yeah.
Basically, when we start fishing those, I don't really deviate from the big bug droppers. So, unless I really want to fish deeper with the bobber or whatnot. But pretty much from July, all the way clear into October, and I'll still fish big dries too, if
Oh, no
because there's
kidding.
still hoppers and golden stoneflies, and
Right.
they like to look up. So,
Yeah. So that hatch starts. So on the salmon flies, you're saying, so before even the hatch starts, when might you be fishing some of the big, when's the earliest you might fish those big nymphs?
it kind of depends on the clients, if they're antsy to fish topwater stuff. A lot of these guys, that's all they want to do sometimes. But I'd say as soon as you start seeing them, those nymphs, and and we fish them a lot. It kind of works its way up from the Henry's Fork, and
Okay.
then work way to the South Fork, or where the confluence is, down lower on the Snake. So we kind of get, it starts, the hatch down there, so we kind of know somewhat when it's coming, and or we've already fished down there, so we're kind of anticipating it. Same with the fish. I think the fish anticipate it as well. So if you throw those big bugs on, they're going to eat them eventually.
They
So
are. Okay.
just
Ha-
put 'em on. Yeah.
yeah. Right. So what's your nymphing setup? If you're fishing a big nymph, are you always using an indicator, or what's that look like?
We use like the thingamabobbers a lot, and just for the newer like mini bobbers with the little swivel setup. Deadly setup here is just two Pat's rubber legs. I do a lot on a tag. You can use split shot if you want to get down, but a classic deadly rig here is just double rubber legs.
Really? That's awesome.
I've caught tons of fish with just two turds, we call it.
Yeah. Two turds, just brown or black.
Orange too, orange, and
Orange.
there's poppy colors. There's tons of different colors, and then you get your Sharpie game too. You can Sharpie and stuff. So a lot of times we're using, the rainbows are spawning in the spring, and the cutties follow them. So we're using a lot of attractor stuff, subsurface, pink beads, stuff like that, pheasant tails, and more attractive flies with. But that rubber leg's a staple in my box.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you, what's your, and you're using kind of like a 6 weight, 9 foot 6 weight?
Yeah, yep. I've got two 9 foot 6 weights for nymphing, and then two 10 footers that I'll use for nymphing, and then 9 foot. We have tons of
Yeah.
rods.
Why would you go for the 10 foot or the 9 foot, or why not just stick with the 10 foot?
Well, a lot of times I'll do my 10 foot as on a 5 weight, but line it up. So I'll put a 6 weight line on the 5 weight 10 footer, just because you're mending all day. You're not a huge casting game. It's more of that, big jump rope style mends. And so that 10 footer's nice for that, just for mending your face off all day.
Right.
So
Oh, the 10 foot. Yeah. It gives you a little more leverage.
Yeah, we say mend all day long. It's
Yeah,
like,
mend. Because what happens is you've got your indicator. Let's just say your indicator. So even that you're mending all day with the indicator.
yeah, you're keeping that fly line behind the indicator as much as you can and getting,
Right.
nice slow presentation and getting those flies down.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the so let's say you got the 10-foot 5 weight out there. What is your leader typically? Like how long is it? What's that? Is that a pretty custom build there for that?
I build all my leaders. A lot of these guys have, all the tapered leaders and stuff, but I generally will build mine, and it's all on a hinge system from the indicator. So it's on a 90-degree nymph rig, we call them. You do a couple loop knots, or there's several ways you can attach it knot wise, but it basically creates a hinge system underneath the indicator, so your flies aren't, dragging parallel to
Right.
the.
It's a 90.
Yeah, and so they hinge, and a lot of times instead of mending, I'll have them just lift the rod tip up
Yeah.
while we're moving in the boat, and it's kind of like a mini mend, and it works well with those 10-foot rods.
Right. Just kind of move it.
Yeah, and it moves the flies up into a little more current sometimes, and it triggers a reaction from the fish to move.
Yeah. Right. Instead of move it a little bit. So you got this 90-degree off of the bobber. Is it kind of from the bobber then it goes
Yeah,
down 90?
yeah. I'll run depending on what time of year it is. If we're in heavy flow as far as runoff and the water's a little off color or whatever, you can usually run 2x or pretty heavy 1x to 2x to your first bug and then go accordingly. But towards the end of the year, I'm down to like 5x. You got to be sneaky. So
Oh yeah.
it just depends on what time of year as far as your leader size.
Gotcha. Okay. So if you're starting out in let's just say that July period, you'd be using more like heavier stuff.
Yeah, in fact, when we're fishing for the salmon, well, during that salmon fly hatch, a lot of times I got my guys on 2x 7-foot 2x just rope so they can throw it in the bushes and get the flies back
Get
out.
it back.
Yeah, and they're not going to be, the fish aren't super. You can line them and stuff, but they're not super leader shy when they're eating those big salmon flies. They're hammering those things. So
Yep.
in fact, a lot of times I have them, smack the water. I don't have them present the fly, nice and pretty. A lot of it's really slapping the water, hitting it, triggering a reaction. They see that and look up and go, ooh, so it triggers a reaction. And so it doesn't have to be super pretty.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's what's fun too. You can, fish your six or, a little heavier rod and then huck it in the bushes and still get your flies back. So
Yeah, right. That's smart. Yeah, and
be able to tuck them in underneath stuff and get them in the pots.
right. That's cool. Yeah, we had a podcast with God, I can't remember exactly who it was, but he was talking about they're in a canyon and they could see where the big fish were by the splash the fish would make on the side of the wall. So they'd be going down. They'd see a big tail splash and be like, okay, there was a big one living there.
Yeah, we have a bunch of cliffs on our river like that, and these fish, especially during the salmon fly, a lot of their noses are scuffed
Oh
up
wow.
from running, picking the bugs off the rock while
Oh crazy.
they got road rash on their
God,
beaks.
that's so awesome. Yep. And so you're doing the same thing. So down there, are you like? I think they were saying that you just pretty much hit the wall with the fly. That's real easy. Just
Yeah,
get it.
yeah,
Same
bank
deal.
shot.
Yeah, bank
Yep,
shot.
yep.
Man, that's great. So the South Fork has. Does it have a lot of diversity? Is there areas where you're like in a nice deep canyon, it's tight, and then it opens up a little bit?
Yeah, you start up at the dam, and that's pretty much pavement to the dam. And that most of the sections we break them out in about 12-mile sections. So we break it down in 5 different sections, and it's about 65 river miles or something like that. And you get I call it kind of like the town float or whatever from the dam to say our lodge that goes through Swan Valley and Irwin. We call that the upper stretch, and that's got a ton of really nice fish. It's really pretty in the spring and fall when there's still snow in the mountains, or like when the leaves are changing and stuff. But then once you get down in the canyon, there's no roads, boat or horseback or by foot, and it's all wilderness. It's really pretty. So that's kind of like the primitive stretch of the river. And then you get down to section 3 and 4, and you start getting into the bottom of the canyon. And then you kind of go into a bunch of braids and more like agricultural areas. But there's a lot more brown trout down there. It's super fun to row a lot of that because it's a little more technical rowing because there's a lot of junk in the water, like cottonwood trees and a lot of different side channels. You got to be careful and know where you can't just take a random side channel because you'll end up in somebody's farm field or, an
Oh,
irrigation
wow.
ditch. Yeah. So you got to know where you're going. But it's super fun rowing down there. I like to row those sections.
Yeah. There's some little bit of a little bit of whitewater in there.
Not anything technical. It's just you got to be a lot more on your toes. There's a lot more in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot more. Yeah. Just whatever. You just got to be ready. And you guys are doing. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll go down there and if you're not careful with some of these clients, they'll lose every one of your flies on all these snacks.
Oh man, how do you avoid that when you got a client that's kind of tends to get snagged up? How do you keep him? What do you do? What's the tip there?
Well, you got to risk it for the biscuit, we always say. But when it starts getting a little out of hand, you're like, you don't have to fish all the time. Just when I tell you it's going to be really good, make sure you're getting good drifts through there, and or don't be snagged up before we get to the good spot.
Yeah, right. That's the worst. Where you're like, okay, there's the spot. There's a nice fish, and then he breaks off before you get there.
After they're hung up on something. Yeah,
Sure.
but that's part of the game.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is. You got to risk it, like you said.
yeah. So you just got to take plenty of flies, and expect to lose a bunch of flies down there, if you're putting them in the spots. But yeah, there's a lot of really nice brown trout down there, and like I said, that's where the confluence of the Henry's Fork comes in down there. Then it goes all the way to the little town called Manan, and yeah, we fish all the way down there. Then we can fish clear down on the lower Snake too, down by American Falls and that. That's kind of where I grew up. I went to Idaho State and Pocatello, and so we fished below the American Falls a ton and out in Fort Hall on the reservation and stuff like that. So
Oh wow, is that still considered a tailwater down there?
yeah, below American Falls is, but all the reservation stuff's like Spring Creeks and stuff.
Wow, this is great. Yeah, so you got that, and then you're rowing. I think you have some skills. Have you done like the Grand Canyon, the Middle Fork, some big whitewater?
Yeah, that's kind of how it started. Was rowing, whitewater and fishing and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been down the Grand Canyon twice, two 21-day floats. I used to float the Middle Fork of the Salmon almost every year. My mom actually lived at the Flying Bee Ranch on
Oh
the
wow.
Salmon up there, and when we were kids, they'd fly us in.
Huh.
I was probably like 13, but they'd fly us into the Flying Bee Ranch, and we had to do chores and stuff, but we had kind of a commissary so we could have candy or whatever if we worked it off. But we rode horses and fished, and my mom kind of was the do all down. She did a lot of the cooking, housekeeping, stuff like that for the ranch, and we did stay there for a couple of months. And so yeah, I love the Middle Fork. It's a really cool fishery too. A lot of good cutthroat and bull trout.
Oh, and bull trout too. Yeah, that's sweet.
Streamer fishing on there is so fun. And then the Selway River is really neat. That's another really cool one in Idaho. Both that one's pretty technical as far as
Is the Selway? I've been on the Middle Fork once. Is the Selway a lot more technical than the Middle Fork, or just different?
yeah, I'd say there's just some spots where there's like class 3, class 4, class 5, like bam, boom, 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 boom. Like if you swam one of them, you're gonna swim them all, kind of thing.
Right.
That's why that one's a little more scary. But it's just real bony. It can be in low water. But yeah, I'd say it's a little more technical than the Middle Fork.
A little more. Okay.
Yeah, depending on the flows, though.
Yeah. Did you see any of those when you're on the Grand Canyon? The dories, the wood boats floating down.
Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, a friend of mine had a dory, an old one that they didn't take it down. I rode it down the upper Snake where it goes into Palisades Reservoir. From the Hoback where everybody does the whitewater stretch up there. Lunch Counter and what's the other one? There's a couple of big rapids in there. But I actually ran that in the Grand Canyon dory.
Oh, you did. Oh, so you took a dory through the canyon.
Yeah, on the upper Snake here. It was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, that is really cool. Was it one of those boats from the Grand the decked over and all that stuff?
Yep.
Okay. And what was it like what do they make those? Are those like 18 footers? Are they bigger? Are they 16?
Yeah, I think that one that I rode was 18 feet.
What's it like when you rode? Is it a lot different than your typical standard drift boat? Does it feel different like when you're
Yeah, the high sides on it are a lot different. You can definitely take on a lot more water than a Clacka.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, it's unlimited, right? Because it's
Yeah,
decked
you
over.
can run some big water in those boats. Yeah, I think when I ran that, it was like class 4 or something when we did that. But There's Big Kahuna is the other wave in there. They call it Big Kahuna and Lunch Counter. And they're
Okay.
kind of two little, they're just big wave trains in there, but they'll definitely eat up your low profile drift boat. So mainly these guys are doing it in rafts. So
Oh yeah, rafts, right.
yeah, that dory's fun up there though.
Yeah. I know that's a cool deal they have going there. Nice. So you got some of that experience, and then I guess going back to the fishing with, and I'm kind of sticking on the nymphs because I want to make sure I get this out. So you're back to that. You're talking about the 20 or the 90-degree curve. So if you're fishing the double nymphs, is it so you're saying like a 2x leader down to your first fly, and
Yeah,
then do you?
depending on the flows and stuff. In the spring, on minimum 2x, and a lot of these bigger fish you're not going to land unless you are using some heavy hit and stuff. Because, in fact, a lot of the bigger fish in the fall that my clients lost, some of it was probably my fault not fishing heavy enough tippet or leader, but you can't because they just won't eat it. They can see it, and it doesn't sink as fast.
Yep.
So generally, I'm spending 2 to 3x to the first fly, and then I'll run it on a tag, and then I'll run 3x or 4x under that. So I'll taper it myself when I build the leaders, and I just do a basic kind of hinge knot. They call it, a lot of people call it Orvis knot. There's a bunch of tags you can do, million different knots, but this tag system works pretty well. And you can run it to 2x to a swivel and then run a tag off that swivel and then another fly under that as well. And that works pretty good.
Oh, I see. So yeah, so use the swivel so you can run your main fly off, and then off of that swivel, that's where the tag could go.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
A lot of times too, you can just when you tie that on the swivel, you just leave that tag end longer and then tie your bug on that and then just tie it. That way, if you want to change flies, you can change one fly easy and not have to chop the whole rig. So you can just take, if you want to change the top or bottom, it's easy to swap them. And then you can mess with the depths as far as how far you want the flies and from the in between from each other. If that makes sense.
Right. But typically your leader is 7 feet. Are you adjusting it quite a bit depending on the water depth you're fishing?
Yeah, and it's all size, depth, colors. All I'm doing, figuring out what size of flies, what depth, what color. Yeah, a lot of times I'm shallow net fishing, so you're fishing a wing. Deep would be your wingspan. So I'm under 6 foot, so it's going to be under 6 foot. A lot of these nymph rigs with the double, and we're fishing a lot of shallow flats, little drops, runs, stuff like that. So,
Right.
and we're constantly changing. A lot of times people fish way too deep, so I like shallow nymph rigs. They're pretty effective here, and the fisher usually will tell you what you need to be doing. If you're not deep enough, you'll figure it out really quick. So.
Yeah, just because you're not getting the feedback, is that how you know you're too deep or?
Yeah, yeah, and we know where the fish are, and so a lot of days some days it's tougher, but a lot of times you just got to go a little deeper or add some split shot stuff like that. So
Yeah. So you guys are using split. So this isn't just like tungsten beaded flies.
yeah, we are using heavy weighted flies as well, but sometimes you got to get them down quick, especially when when it's cooking in the spring. So
Gotcha. Where would the split shot go on that setup you talked about? How far?
I put it above that swivel so it won't slide when you cast it.
Like a foot above it or something like that, or even closer?
Then I put it right up on the
Oh,
swivel,
right on the
so
swivel. Yeah.
yeah, so that way it stops it.
Yeah, stops it, right?
Yep. And like I said, that's going to be more when the water clarity's off, so the fish
Yeah.
can't see it. You can't do that when the water's real clear.
No. So we're talking more earlier season.
Yeah, we're talking May, early June, when the water's anywhere from 18 to 20,000 CFS, and it's off color.
Yep. So you got that early rig where you're setting, where you're going big and targeting. Mostly, are you targeting more of those big browns, rainbows, or just kind of whatever?
Both, yeah, you'll get a mixed bag, but a lot of times when you're early on, you're going to get some really nice brown trout.
Yeah. And then the water, as far as reading it, if you didn't know where the fish are at, you're just floating down looking for like little ledges, drop off stuff like that.
Yeah, seams, riffles, foam lines, any structure. And that's the thing about the South Fork is you can be rowing down and be like, oh, that looks really good. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it is good, but if you don't fish here all the time, these people that, like the general public will just bounce around to the spot that they say, oh, that looks good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the bigger fish I get is when we're moving and not like stopped anchor fishing. It's a lot of them are like moving through some of these runs and stuff, and a lot of shallow water.
Oh, right. Is that nymphing and dries?
Both, yeah. A lot of the big browns that I caught were in real shallow water that where you would not have thought they'd be sitting.
Yeah, they're coming in to feed or right into the shallower water.
Or just surfing, surfing in there, and any bug that comes by, they eat it. They don't have to work a lot. It's coming to them.
Right.
So we fish a lot of stuff where these fish, they're lazy. They're like us. They don't want to move to eat that much. So, they're just in there surfing, and when the food's coming down, they eat it. So,
Yeah, right. So you might be, if you're floating down river, you might not only looking for those deeper seams, but maybe some of is this shallower water like maybe on the side of a gravel bar, or what does this shallow water look like?
yeah, right. Like on these runs where you'll have a real shallow gravel inside edge, and they're gonna be sitting on those edges, and then you can. A lot of times we'll anchor up and just fish these riffles like that, and you start close to the boat and work your way out, or vice versa, kind of grid the whole riffle.
Gotcha.
That's the thing. A lot of these guys don't think out of the box and go fish, some weird shallow runs. Or we're on the river every day, so we have to mix it up. You can't just go from honey hole to honey hole because eventually it just doesn't work. So, even streamer fishing, we'll throw those streamers in right off those shallow inside edges on the gravel bars like that, and those fish eat them up on, right as it hits the water or on your, second or third strip,
Mm,
like 6 inches of water.
gotcha. So it's the same stuff. You're fishing streamers in the same waters you fish the dries.
Yep.
Step into the world where the river whispers and the fishing is nothing short of legendary. This year, I ventured into the heart of eastern Idaho's Yellowstone Teton territory where the fish were larger than life and the waters held the secrets of the best fly fishing out west. Yellowstone Teton territory is not just a location, it's a gateway to adventures that will etch themselves into your memory. With crystal clear rivers like the Henry's Fork and the South Fork of the Snake, and enough lakes to keep you going all year long, make your way to Yellowstone Teton territory and embark on a journey to one of North America's finest fly fishing destinations. Whether you're planning your trip now or just dreaming it up, the YTT is where those dreams turn into reality. Remember, Yellowstone Teton territory. That's Teton, Teton. It's time to experience Eastern Idaho for yourself and support this podcast at the same time. So that's a good reminder, yeah, that it's not just in those deep runs where the big fish are holding. You're getting some of those big. And what's a big brown or rainbow? I know the cutthroat lure is smaller though. What's that look like for those species?
Yeah, I mean, you get anything 18, 20-inch fish on our river. That's a nice fish. Anything above 20s, I consider a nice trout. I think the biggest at our lodge was 31-inch brown this year.
Oh, really? Wow. You got it over 30 this year, yeah.
Yeah, several 24s, 25s, 23s, stuff like that.
And these are browns, or the big fish usually browns, or there's some rainbows that get up there too?
Yeah, I think one of our guys got a 27-inch cutthroat, which is huge.
Dang, 27-inch cutty. The not West Slope. These are the Snake River cuts.
This is the Yellowstone fine spotted.
Oh, okay.
This is massive for that that
Right.
fish, and it was like 17 inches around. Huge fish. Now it's caught in section 3. So yeah, there's still some really big cutties in there too. So
Wow.
a lot of these guys too are fishing worms and eggs and stuff in the spring, so that's why they're getting these big brown trout as well.
Oh, right. So there's guys out there fishing conventional with bait and stuff.
Yeah, or we're using like San Juan worms or these blobs and egg patterns. I don't fish a lot of eggy stuff. I just don't like to do it. But occasionally we'll fish, big burgundy worms or, San Juan looking style worms and stuff. Because a lot of these fish, they will gorge on worms.
Yeah.
Especially in the spring.
In the spring, right. It's because that's what happens, right? The water comes up from a lower, and then the water's over in the banks where all the worms are at, right? And they're coming out.
Yeah, and then you get all these tributaries that feed the South Fork. So all these, Rainy Creek, Palisades Creek, Pine Creek, all these tributaries coming in are blown out. So there's a lot of sediment coming in and there and pumping worms and coming out of those. Yeah, and a lot of other insects as well. But yeah, these tributaries pump a lot of food into the system.
That's sweet. Yeah, so the San Juan worm is not something you're afraid to fish. That one definitely works.
Yeah, no, we'll fish the whatever works.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I feel like that's the way it should be, And even like the rubber leg. I mean, you think about the Bass rubber leg, it's like That is not much different than a San Juan worm when you think about it, right? It's some chenille and some rubber.
Yup. I don't tie a bunch of those just because I hate tying them, but we go through tons of those at our shop. And I mean, if that's one, like one fly that you have to. A lot of people don't fish them though, but it's a staple for me. And a lot of times, there's a million different sizes, obviously, but a lot of times I'm using that as the sinker fly too.
Oh, okay. With like weight, are you lining that with weight?
Yeah, there's lead wraps or whatever
Yeah.
weighted wraps you have, but I'll use that a lot as my point fly and just as a sinking fly too. And those rubber legs too, they don't, the stonefly nymphs, they don't swim, so to speak. They kind of just trundle down the river and they kind of curl up. So a lot of times I'll bend the hook a little on the rubber legs and kind of make them look like almost like that potato bug or whatever that curls up. And then use that as my sinker fly and then put a bead behind that, 18, 20 inches behind that or something. But yeah, we're constantly mixing it up. So
Yeah, gotcha. So on the Pat's rubber leg, yeah, it's so like you're saying, you'll have that one as maybe the heavy fly to get things down, and then off of that, off the tag, you might have a little like what would it be? Would you also fish something smaller if you weren't doing the double rubber legs?
yeah. And a lot of guys will fish the rubber leg like a drop shot as their second fly, so to speak. So the heaviest one's on the bottom and then tag a lighter fly on top. Just depends how you want them to swim. But yeah, I'll use Baetis flies, any mayfly nymphs, caddis nymphs, basically whatever food's there. I'm trying to match the hatch all the time, midges. And a lot of times, if you're not matching the hatch, you're fishing something that I don't know what it is, but they like it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, Duracells, stuff like a lot of tractor flies. But yeah, we just kind of, and a lot of it, we go out every day. So we get back to the lodge, and we'll talk about, where'd you go? What'd you do? How was it? So we get a lot of beta. And we have so many flies at our shops.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, a lot of the flies that I tie are just guide flies that work well that we put on better hooks and just make them more durable so we don't, catch one fish and the fly's toast after one fish.
What's a couple of guide flies you'd be using to like? What's typical?
Um, we call it one called the mic drop. There's some what do they call that one?
Is it just when it's the mic drop of these other ones? Is it just a similar to just less materials, just kind of simpler?
Yeah, a lot of it thinner profiles.
What is the mic drop? If you could describe that? What's that thing look like?
It's basically it looks like a zebra midge almost, with orange collar, and it's olive body, super easy. Um,
So it's imitating a guy could imitate anything, any mayfly, any caddis.
yeah, exactly. It's midgey caddis, mayfly. I don't know exactly what they think it is, but they like it.
It was size range. Are you varying with that stuff? Kind of 16 to
16,
yeah,
18s, 20 depends, yeah. And then we'll do there's a one I actually did the one flight and did really well on that. We called it the devil jig. And it's just basically a mayfly nymph that's got some CDC soft tackle around the collar, red body. But yeah, that one did well. And the one fly when I fished that, and we just fished that single under a strike indicator.
yeah. So the indicators, it sounds like. I mean, I know like in the boats, right? Indicators are really nice, especially with clients. Do you find there's places where maybe you don't use an indicator for nymphing? Maybe you do more like Euro nymphing stuff.
Yeah, and if you want to swing flies, we'll swing wet flies every now and again. It just kind of depends on the client. When we go out, I'm usually going to try and dry fly fish or streamer fish when I'm fishing
Yeah.
because we bobber fish all the time, and you get sick of staring at the bobber. So,
Right. Right.
but on this river though, I want my people to be able to do it all. I want you to be able to nymph, do it all because some days are different. You need to be able to nymph fish and or pull out the streamers when you need them. So
That's sweet. What is it, the South Fork? I know it's in this amazing place. What is it about the fishing, or that makes it so unique, or that people are coming for? Is there one thing? What do you think?
well, like if you stayed at our lodge, you're gonna get, especially if you stay multiple days. Obviously, you're gonna get three different rivers, so to speak, because it's each section so different. So you're not gonna fish the same water each day. It's constantly changes. So it's kind of day to day. And a lot of these guys, if they want to go back to the same section, we can. But I like to mix it up too. I don't like to sit and pound the same water every day. So
No.
it's nice we get to, fish all these different sections, and then obviously kind of adapt to, your clientele as far as their skill level and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's great. So, what is the so the one fly? I've heard a little bit about that. And did you had some success out there? Was that this last year?
no, I didn't do it. I haven't done it in what, 2 or 3 years. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think I got fifth place last time I did it. And those were on flies that I tied. And the years that I didn't do well, I had my guys streamer fish, and I shouldn't have had them do that because they lost their flies. But you get one fly, you lose it, you're done. But the one year, yeah, I just nymph fished and drew the upper sections and ended up getting fifth. Hung out by the dam and did a bunch of laps up by the dam and ended up getting like a 22-inch cutty up there. And
Right. Is the one fly? Is it on the South Fork every year?
yeah, and on the upper snake as well in the hoback section.
Okay, Upper Snakes Hoback. So that's up towards like Jackson.
Yeah, so they do it on the upper snake and the south fork of the snake.
Oh, Upper Snake and the South. Okay, and then is the one fly? Maybe describe that a little bit. We haven't talked about it in a while. How does that competition work? I think it was that one of that's been going for a while, right?
Yeah, long time. It's a fundraiser. Big bucks. These guys, I can't remember how much they pay per boat, but it's a lot. And you'll get a guide, two anglers, and the anglers are on different teams, so they'll get on a boat together, different teammates. That way, they get it. I think they do like half-hour rotation or 15 minutes. They rotate front to back of the boat, but they're on different teams, so they can't cheat. Then the guides keep track and measure all the fish, and you can score. I think it's 6 fish that you can score. So you kind of got to be careful which ones you want to score. And over 18 inches, you get more points, and they have the whole scoring thing. But you're basically just trying to catch the most and biggest fish, and it's just 2 days, two different sections on the South Fork, and then on the Upper Snake as well.
Gotcha. Wow. And when that happens, does the river close down for that event, or there's lots of people still out there?
We guide during the event. There's just a lot more boats. It
Yeah,
doesn't really.
not a big deal.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good anglers. That's if the anything. That's the only thing is you get some good sticks out there that are going to catch some fish.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah, you can tell who's in the competition and who's not. So it really don't affect the river that much.
Okay. And are the guides mostly guides in that area, or are they coming from all around the place?
Yeah, these guys the anglers are coming from all around, and then they're using the South Fork guides,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, so they know what's going on here. I think some people they might have other guides come that have done it, but most of the time you're getting guides from all these outfitters from around here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of was that Jack Dennis's brainchild coming up with that thing?
I'm not sure. It might be. I'm sure he's been involved with it. I'm not positive though.
Yeah, that's right. Nice. So cool. Well, we've talked definitely a lot about, in past episodes, kind of the lodge, but it's pretty amazing, right? And you have, of course, Oliver, who's well known out there, and then Jimmy Kimmel, who also is well known. What is that like there? Do you see Jimmy a lot? He fishes there for like a month straight or something like that, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, he loves to fish, and he brings a crew out. He comes in the spring. He has it several times that he comes, but he spends about a month, like you said, and
Yeah.
they call them the Rain Bros.
What,
Um,
Rain Bros?
yeah, Rain Bros, and their competition, and it's dry fly only. You catch it subsurface, it's 1 point. Top water is 2 points. If you get a whitefish, it's negative 2 points. And so they have this scoring deal, and Michael Keaton's in on it, and Jason Bateman, a lot of this Huey Lewis and the celebs. So they do this rainbow tournament when he comes the first time, which is usually in the spring, and they try and dry fly fish when the dry fly fishing sucks.
Yeah.
So, but that's what they like to do. So
That's pretty good. The Rain Bro is awesome.
I fished Jimmy several times. He's chill, listens to music, fishes. He's a good angler. Fished with Huey Lewis several times.
Uh-huh.
He's dry fly only. Yeah, I even put on 2 dry flies, and he's like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, well, what if the one fly works? And he goes, we'll just take the other one off then. So
So Huey likes one fly.
yeah, and he's super cool. I fished with him and his son Austin, and those two were barking at each other. Huey can't hear very well from all the music, so he's a little hard of hearing. But
Yeah.
so we get a little bit of bickering with him and his kid, and Huey likes to fish way out in front of you, So I had to kind of reel him in, so to speak, to get him and his son from killing each other. So
Right, that's so good. Yeah, Huey.
all
This
those guys that come are really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you guys get any? We don't talk, rarely about politics here, but is with Kibble, do you hear a little bit of that just because of kind of the political stuff? I'm sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of the people don't even come to our lodge anymore because of the political stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
But either love or hate him,
yeah,
kind of thing, and they'll let you know.
yeah.
So
They'll let you know, right? That's the first thing. Yeah, I know. It's interesting because it's this. We're in this kind of crazy world, right, of politics, just of total opposites of. It's just kind of a rough place to be, but yeah, I think being able to laugh at stuff is important, right? I think that's what's cool about it is if you can't laugh
yeah,
at
this
yourself,
stuff,
right?
is not. It's scripted for him, and so he's doing his thing, and he's a good guy.
Yeah, that's good. Cool, cool. And awesome. So you got the slebs out there going. So other than the Rain Bros time, is it pretty much standard throughout the year as far as what you're doing? The operation you got? Oh, the clients coming in, repeat clients, or a lot of these people new coming in?
As far as with Jimmy,
No, just in general when you're guiding throughout the year.
yeah. So usually, I try and have like my say 100 requests. I try and get 100 people that want to come fishing with me, and then the rest will fill in. I'll do like 120 days usually, but a lot of them we want requests. So we want we fished with. So I'm trying to get all the repeat customers, and then then the rest are people I haven't met and or new to the lodge and stuff. So they're basically go out in the morning and they say hi, I'm Justin, I'm your guide, and we go from there kind of thing. So
Yeah, yeah, cool. Well, let's take it out of here in a few minutes. This is our kind of outdoor random, activity segment here, and I wanted to hear, just a little bit about, what you're doing. You mentioned a couple of things, skiing. So, what are the activities out there? I know that part of the world has a ton going on in the winter. Other than fly fishing, what are you interested in? Have we talked about everything?
we just got back, one of our guides, Grant. I used to do it quite a bit. I'm too old to do it now, but ski joring, where you get pulled behind the horse.
Oh, wow. What's it called?
Ski joring,
Ski joring. Like how do you spell that?
Joring.
Okay, joring. Gotcha.
And they there's a circuit that they do like Big Sky, Montana. There's four or five all around, in Colorado, Idaho. We used to travel and race and make money skiing behind the horses. My buddy Grant, we just went and he had a race. We went to support him, and he ended up winning it actually.
So this is would this be kind of like a dog sled thing? Instead of dogs, you'd have your pulled with a horse?
Yeah, you're going fast behind a horse on skis, and there's gates and jumps, and
Oh man.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Holy cow. Is that going on in Idaho there?
Yeah, and there's actually a race coming up in Driggs. I think it's not this weekend, but next, and that's a pretty big one in Driggs. And then, like we have a few of the cowboys and stuff here in Swan Valley that they actually have a course at their house that we'll go practice, and they'll pull us with horses or snowmobiles, and yank us around
Oh
their
man.
fence and stuff. So
Wow. So do you have a quick release? Like if you take a slip, are you able to just let go of the horse?
yeah, you should let go of the rope. But a lot of people there, like this last race, there are a lot of people crashing. They just did the Big Sky one. Check it out. You'll see the highlights from it. Google the Big Sky ski joring, and they
Okay.
had like snowmobiles doing backflips
Oh
and
man.
hitting jumps, and there's flames. This one was a pretty big race, but yeah, we're doing a little bit of that. Skiing a lot. We go to Targhee, Jackson Hole. Do a lot of backcountry skiing here.
Skiing's good. Is it good snow? Everything's great out there for skiing.
Powder skiing. We ski a lot of deep powder. There's been a lot of avalanches, so we've been having to be real careful. So we're constantly looking at that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's pretty quiet here in Swan Valley in the winter.
It is.
You know, after fishing all summer every day, it's nice just to sleep in sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
It kind of slows down here in the winter. It's nice.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you mentioned if you like snowmobile, ice fishing, there's definitely lots of winter activities right there out there, stuff you can do.
In the fall, we elk hunt, so I try and get an elk.
Oh, cool. Is that bow or rifle?
This year I drew a muzzleloader tag,
Oh,
so
wow.
it was the old, powder
Yeah, what was that? What
musket.
was that like? Did you hunt it?
Yeah, I spent a week. I just couldn't get close enough to hit them.
Yeah, was this near your hometown?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, these muzzle loaders are open sights.
Oh man, so it's like bow. Are you kind of getting the same distance as if you're shooting a bow?
Yeah, about that. You can shoot a little further. 100 yards is about as far as I try,
Yeah.
is that I'm accurate. But yeah, we were getting close, but just not close enough where I could hit them.
Wow.
So we got no elk meat this year, and
Yep.
that's my favorite.
Oh man, I know. See, the elk is. And I haven't had elk meat in the freezer for a while, but it is nice. Yeah, man, you get an elk because that really loads it up. A deer is nice, but you can burn through a deer. An elk, right? You got to really work on it.
Yeah, and there's where I live up here on Rainy Creek. We have a ton of whitetail there. I bought a drone. Impulse buy at Costco, bought this drone, so I've been practicing the drone thing. But you can see the whole deer migration through here. It's kind of cool with the drone.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, working on that. I'm gonna do some cool drone shots on following us down the river. So
Right, right. That's a good idea. While you're guiding, just throw the drone out there and get some shots.
yeah, cool follow mode. So practicing with skiing. So pretty sure I can do it down the river and not swamp it.
Yeah.
So
God, this is great. So yeah, so lots of good stuff there. Well, any other? Maybe we'll take it out of here with just a couple of tips. We were talking nymphs. I was kind of focusing a little bit on nymphs, although dries obviously everything's good. What are a couple of nymphing tips? Somebody's out there again. Maybe it's their first time, fishing the South Fork.
I always tell my clients cast less and hunt your flies more. And that's like we talked earlier by using, you're going to be mending. That mend is super important, long, slow drifts. A lot of times these guys are not getting the flies down where they need to be, and then they recast when the flies get to where they need to be. So a lot of being patient and letting those flies hunt, let them get down there, use those mends, use the lifts. And I always say the fish live in the river, quit casting.
Yeah,
The people cast way too much.
keep it in the water. When you do that lift instead of the roll cast, you kind of just pull the rod up and upstream like a few feet.
Yeah, it's kind of like jigging. If you're jigging ice fishing,
Yeah.
it's just like a jig.
Oh, right. Lift it up, and then the current kind of keeps it, straightens it out, and gets it down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, and then pretty much you're floating. When you're going, are you rods are floating? Are you pretty much just steering that fly right in the slot?
Yeah, I'm. That's what I tell clients too. Let me drive your flies to the fish. I'll drive you to the fish. And a lot of times, keep your rod tip down. Keep that tip of your rod pointed at the indicator, and I'll drive you to the fish. All you got to do is I tell them answer the phone, and that's when you set.
Yeah.
Just like answering the phone.
Right. Answer the phone. Yep. That's it.
And then keep that rod tip up once you're hooked up, and then you're going to turn the heads and I'll drive the fish, to the net, so to speak. But
Yeah.
um, a lot of it, yeah, and I can even, with an oar stroke, kind of tweak the boat to throw a mend in for someone that's struggling, kind of mend for them with the boat. So there's little tricks that we use all the time like that. If people are having a hard time with their mends.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Is there any like a hidden gem fishing spot? Maybe not on the South Fork, something that we couldn't, or that maybe people know about, but we could mention here. Or is there? I know you can fish tribs, right? You can fish some of the tribs there.
I'm gonna get in trouble, but there's a really cool. It's called Bear Creek,
Yeah.
and it goes into Palisades Reservoir, which goes into the South Fork. But Bear Creek's an awesome cutthroat fishery. There's a ton of big cutties up there. They eat small dry flies and hoppers and stuff, and you just drive up there and walk and wade it. It's a cool little creek.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's one. And then this is good. Well, let's. I always love to hear a little bit on the music, just to kind of round things off here. Are you listening to more music or podcasts when you're out there heading to the river?
Music.
Yeah. What's your music? What's usually in there? Is this on Spotify or Apple?
I have both. I like all sorts of music. Yeah, it's hard to say. I'll go from country one day to death metal the next.
Yeah. What is the country? Something like more something newer you'd hear, or more old stuff?
I like the older country. I don't like the newer pop country stuff.
Yeah. What would be What would be one person or band or?
Um, that's a tough one. You can't beat some good old Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah, Brooks and Dunn. There you go. Yeah, Brooks and Dunn. I love it. I don't think we've had a Brooks and Dunn sighting yet, so we'll throw a video in the show notes for that too. So Brooks and Dunn. I'm trying to think of a song, but I remember that was the '90s, right?
Neon Moon, yeah.
Oh, Neon Moon. Yeah, right. Good. Okay. Cool. And what about on the nightlife around there? Is there any food, anything you had mentioned in the evening, like if you're going into town?
No. Well, there's two restaurants here, and one's open Wednesday through Sunday, and the other one's you never know when it's open. So there
Not much.
is no, there's nothing. We have a bar in Irwin now that's they remodeled, so we have kind of a bar. But other than that,
Yeah, yeah.
we spend a lot of time at the lodge
That's the
too when
thing,
we
right? The lodge is nice.
yeah, yeah, it's super nice. So um and they encourage us to, hang out, talk to the clients and stuff. So
Oh, sure. What's the bar called? Isn't it have a name there?
the machete.
Machete Bar.
Yeah.
Right, right. You got the bar, and it's just super nice. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and we have a new fly shop now that has a bar in it as well. So
oh, so so there's a new fly shop on the lodge grounds.
yeah, and it's awesome. It's a huge, full Yeti endorsed fly shop. Yeah, it's super nice.
Yeah. Oh, wow. This is awesome. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Nice. Well, this has been awesome, Justin. I appreciate the time today. Maybe on the, if we get you back here, we'll talk more about some of the other, hatches and things and some of your explorations. But yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. Appreciate the time, and we'll definitely look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, man.
All right, your call to action is clear. You can head over to Instagram, check in with at JA_fish ski, Jaw Fish Ski, and let Justin know you heard this podcast. Check in with him. If you know Justin, just say hi today. And if you're interested in the South Fork, check out the South Fork Lodge and check out some of that action we talked about today. I want to let you know we are going live on YouTube regularly now, and we've got sessions, flight tying sessions. We've got some upcoming webinars. The next one that's coming here is going to be Bruce Richards. If you're interested in elevating your fly cast, we've got one of the best on the planet. Bruce Richards is going to walk us through his webinar presentation and some actions that are going to include the 6-step method to get you leveled up for your casting. Go to wetflyswing.com/webinar right now, and you can sign up for that next webinar. We got a big one, one last one here, a big one, new episode, a new podcast series on this podcast, CJ's Real Southern Podcast. You don't want to miss this one. I've got the new host of CJ's Real Southern Podcast, which is going to be one of our podcasts in our feed. Chad Johnson is going to break it out. We're going to be talking streamers. It's going to be a big one. I can't wait to launch this one out. I want to thank you for checking in Travel Today, and I hope that you can live that dream trip this year and get out and experience that road less traveled.